All right, so we're going deep today, like really deep.
Deep dive time.
Exactly. We're diving into this whole world of online fact-checking, or should I say, the lack thereof.
Ooh, getting right into it, I see.
You know it. There's this article from CBS News that really got us thinking.
Yeah, the one about Meta.
That's the one. Facebook, Instagram, the whole shebang. Seems they're pulling the plug on their fact-checking program.
It's third-party one, right?
Yep. No more relying on those outside groups to, actually verify the stuff that's floating around their platforms.
Yeah, and that's a pretty big deal when you think about it. I mean, for years, that's been their main strategy for dealing with misinformation.
That's true. Remember those little disputed tags?
Oh, yeah, those were everywhere for a while.
Guess those are going the way of the dodo, huh?
Hmm.
The article actually compares this whole thing to what Elon Musk has been up to over on X.
You mean Twitter?
Well, it was Twitter. Now it's X. Got to keep up with the times.
I'll try my best. So what are they saying about Meta and X?
They're both moving towards something called a community-driven approach, apparently.
Community-driven. That sounds interesting.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But what does that even mean in practice? How do you actually make that work?
Well, instead of those designated fact-checkers, they're going to be leaning more on, everyday users flagging content they think is, questionable.
So basically, we're the fact-checkers now.
Kind of, yeah. But it's not just about flagging. They're also saying they want to be way more transparent about, sources and authors.
More transparency.
Yeah, giving users more context to make their own judgment calls.
Yeah.
Hey, this article is from a blog run by a guy in his basement, so maybe take it with a grain of salt.
Okay, so more tools and info for users, less reliance on those third-party fact-checkers. Makes sense on the surface. But I gotta wonder, what's the real reason behind this whole shift?
You mean besides just, trying to do things differently?
Yeah, is this just about saving money? Or is there something more to it?
It could be a bit of both, to be honest.
You think so?
I mean, those fact-checking programs, they aren't exactly cheap to run. And there's been a lot of pushback from certain groups saying they're biased, So maybe Meta sees this as a way to address that while also slimming down their operations. A two-for-one deal.
That's a good point. I mean, you can't deny there's always that risk of bias creeping in no matter who's doing the checking.
Exactly. It's a tricky situation.
It really is. But, okay, let's say we're handing the reins over to the users. How do we prevent things from going totally off the rails?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. Won't this just open the floodgates for even more misinformation to spread without those checks and balances in place?
That's a valid concern, definitely. I think one of the biggest challenges is making sure the algorithms they use to surface that context are doing it right,
In a fair way.
Right. In a balanced, unbiased way. They need to account for, the reputation of the source, the credibility of the author, even potential conflicts of interest. It's a lot to consider.
That's a lot of weight for an algorithm to carry. But it's not just the tech.
Yeah.
Right? There's the whole human element, too.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, how do you stop, say, a whole group of users who all have the same agenda from just flagging anything they disagree with, even if it's true?
Yeah, that's where things get really, really complicated. You need some serious safeguards in place. Multiple layers of verification, appeals processes, maybe even human review for certain things. It's not easy.
Sounds like a tightrope walk.
Yeah.
Between giving users more power and, making sure the power doesn't get abused.
It is.
So stepping back for a second, what does all this mean for, the average person scrolling through their feed? Like me, for example.
It means we all got to step up our game when it comes to, consuming information online. Be more careful. More than careful. More discerning. We can't just blindly accept what we see, even if it comes with a fancy verified label or a ton of likes.
Right.
We have to think critically, check sources, be willing to question our own biases. It's a lot of work, but
It's worth it.
it's necessary.
I hadn't thought about it that way. But you're right. If we can't rely on platforms or, experts to spoon-feed us the truth, then maybe this is actually a good thing in the long run.
I think so. It's about shifting from being passive consumers of information to active participants.
Yeah.
You know?
We're all part of this, essentially.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
It's clear that Meta's decision is kind of a game changer. It raises some big questions about, the whole future of online information.
No doubt about it.
What would you say is the most crucial takeaway from all of this?
I think the biggest thing is this. Technology alone can't fix this. It's not enough to just build better algorithms or create new tools.
It's got to be more than that.
It's got to be about people, about empowering users, encouraging critical thinking, building a culture where everyone feels responsible for the information they're sharing.
That's a tall order.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's also a huge opportunity to build a better, more informed, more engaged online community, and that's something worth striving for.
Well said. Until next time, happy diving.